Hi there, it's Tyler from Nelly Security, and in this video we are going to dive a little bit deeper into our Uniarch series. In the past two videos, we gave you an overview of Uniarch, explained its purpose, unboxed the products, and set up a complete Uniarch system. Now all that's left is to show you the interface. In this video in particular, we're going to be showing you the NVR interface, but if you're interested in checking out the mobile app, we have a video for that too, so be sure to check the links down in the description. Now I'm going to assume that you are all caught up with the series so far, so without further ado, let's jump right into this interface. All right, here we are on the NVR interface, and you can see I have two Uniarch cameras installed outside, a 2 megapixel bullet and a 4 megapixel turret. Now this image is a little bit darker than the 2 megapixel image, so we might have to adjust that a little bit. But you can see right away these two cameras are installed in about the same spot, about the same orientation, so we will be able to pretty easily compare and contrast these. The first thing you'll notice is the bullet camera has a much flatter field of view, whereas the turret camera, it does look a little bit rounder right here. That's just the nature of it being a turret camera and a bullet camera, but those are the kind of things that you'll want to look for when deciding on which camera that you're going to invest in. Now let's jump right into the on-screen interface. I'm just going to double click one of these windows to make it full screen, and now we have our 2 megapixel bullet camera highlighted here, and across the bottom we have these buttons for really quick access to adjusting the on-screen display. We can jump into a digital zoom if we need to. This is only a 2 megapixel camera, so the digital zoom's not going to be great, but it's there for when we need it. We can also jump right into image control if we need to adjust this. I think the image looks pretty good, honestly, so we're probably just going to leave it. We can also jump into an instant playback. Again, these NVRs can hold up to 6 terabytes of storage, so if you do have a hard drive installed in your NVR, you can jump into an instant playback right away. You have to log in for this. But once you do, you have the access here to this instant playback. So you don't have to have access to the full playback menu if you just want to jump back in time a little bit. That's what you'll see that on most NVRs, and that is no different here with these Uniarch NVRs. Next up, we have our audio settings, which are not applicable to either of these cameras because they don't have any audio functionality. There's no built-in mic, there's no audio cables in the pigtail. And next we have real quick info that tells us the megabytes per second that we're using. If we click on this, we also have the ability to modify the IP address, change the channel. We can see the connection status, all that good stuff right here from the home menu. And finally, if we don't want to mess with any of these, we can just click this button to exit. All right, now let's double click to head back to our multi-view, and I'm going to open up this camera right here. We can see from the top right corner that it is detecting motion. That means it is picking up on the motion of the cars on the road. The problem with this is that's a very busy road out there. There are cars all the time, so we're always going to see that this camera was recording motion. So we're going to jump in here. We're going to do two things. First, we are going to adjust the image to make it just a little bit brighter. And after that, we're going to jump into the motion settings and dial this back a little bit so that it only picks up motion happening in our parking lot. So let's jump into the image settings first and foremost. And to do that, we're going to click again on this little image config icon. And what we have here is really simple and quick adjustments that we can make on the fly without jumping into the menu. So we can bring up the brightness just a bit. And maybe we want to bring down the contrast. What we're trying to do here is just make it easier to see some things over here in these more shadowy areas. And I think that's looking pretty good. Maybe even bring up the saturation just a little bit just to make those colors really stand out. And there we go. I think that looks good. And yeah, we can see when we compare this to this image earlier, they were quite a bit different. This was a lot darker. Now they look a lot more similar. This still has more contrast than this image, but that's okay. I think we can see a lot better already just with those few very minor tweaks. Now what I'm going to do is open up the menu here by right-clicking and clicking on Menu. And this is going to give us access to all the different settings that these cameras offer. We can adjust the video settings. Again, we can come in here and adjust this on-screen display if we need to. We can adjust the image. We have a little bit more control to fine-tune these settings from this menu than we did from the menu from the home screen. We can, for instance, adjust the sharpness. We can adjust the noise reduction. We have access to all these different exposure settings and illumination settings. We can adjust the white balance. One thing that is interesting to note is that these cameras do support WDR, and this is true WDR, so it's not just software, it's actually the hardware of the camera. Right now WDR is on, and here's what the same image looks like with WDR off. It honestly doesn't make too big of a difference with this image right here, but you can see that there in the shadows where the cars are, it does look quite a bit darker with WDR turned off. So I am going to turn that back on. And what that's going to do is even out the lighting so that the lighter areas of the image are a little bit darker, whereas the darker areas of the image are a little bit brighter. This is great for, if your security cameras are indoors and pointed at a window or something like that. Just pretty much any scenario where there is uneven lighting, you can flip on this WDR and it does its best to fix that. And that's really cool to see in these cameras because they are so stripped back on the features that we're used to seeing on some of the more powerful Uniview cameras. But when it comes to the features that are going to give you a better image, it really looks like Uniview put just about everything into these Uniarch cameras. Now let's come over here and jump into the alarm menu. And from here we're going to be able to adjust this motion detection. Right now we see the bullet camera actually has a pretty good motion detection field. Right there, maybe it's a little close to the road, so I think I will just click and drag right there to turn it off. But for the most part, this is a pretty good field because it's not going to pick up the motion of the cars on the road. It's only going to pick up motion that's happening right here in the parking lot. So that's what we want to see. And I did change that a little bit, so I'm going to click Apply. Now let's jump into the second camera, which is this turret, and see what's going on here. Now in the turret camera, we can see that the graph is covering the entire screen, and these little dark boxes are going to tell us where on the screen the camera is detecting motion. So we can see as a car drives by, the motion is being detected right there. So all we really need to do is click and drag across that grid and bring it down to maybe here. So there we go. That should fix this issue where we're having just constant motion recording. So when we go into the playback menu later, we will be able to see, when the camera was recording during normal time and when the camera was only recording motion. Something else I'm going to do here is bump down the sensitivity just a bit. Right now it's at 98. I'm going to put this down to 80 just to make it a little less sensitive because I think the reflection on that car is also causing the motion detection alarm to trigger. So let's try that out. We'll hit Apply and see if that fixes our issue as well. This is all stuff that you're going to have to, kind of play around with. Right now, obviously, it's detecting motion because there is someone walking into that car. And right now, that car is moving, so the whole thing is kind of blowing up right now. But as soon as that car leaves, we'll be able to see if that little motion detection icon disappears or if we are still getting motion somewhere on the screen. Yeah, it's still picking up the reflections over on that car. Yeah, we might just need to bump the sensitivity down even more. Well, I don't know. Our little guy's gone. Oh, there he is. Yeah, let's turn this down just a bit. We'll come back to this in a bit and see if our little guy is still acting up. Which right now, it looks like it should be fine because several cars just drove by and we have no motion recording. So I think that did it. What we did there, not only did we adjust the motion detection grid, we also adjusted the sensitivity a little bit just to make sure we're only getting motion that we care about. This is really important for these because if we click on VCA here, We have no VCA. There are no smart events for these two cameras. If we have a PTZ for this, we can do auto tracking. If we have a camera hooked up to this that supports human body detection, we can edit that right here from the NVR, but neither of these cameras do. See, I can't even enable human body detection. So we really have to rely heavily on that motion detection. And I might turn the sensitivity down on this bullet as well. Down to 70, we'll hit apply, save those changes, and we're good to go. If we jump into storage, we can see our recording schedule. And right now we can see, again, it is recording normally all the time. We can change this to only record based on motion, based on an alarm, based on a combination of things. I like to keep it as recording normal all the time. And again, when we jump into the playback menu, we'll see the difference between normal recording and motion recording. It'll be different colors. But if you really want to save some NVR space, you can set up a schedule where it's only recording either half the time or only recording based on motion detection. All right, speaking of the playback menu, let's check that out. I'm back here on the home screen, and I'm just going to right click and click playback. Over here on the left side of the screen, we have our cameras. So I'm going to select both of these. Down here we have the calendar. So right now we are seeing the motion that's been happening on July 6th. I just now turned this NVR on. So let's go back to June because I do believe we have some recordings. Yes, we can see the red squares are when we have recordings. So I started recording here on the 17th. Let's check out the 18th of June. If we double click that, it's going to take us to the 18th timeline. And you can see our timeline down here has multiple colors. Again, that has to do with what is being recorded. The key down there tells us that the blue is just normal recording and the red is event recording. We can see it's more event recording than it is normal recording because, for the most part, that motion was picking up on the cars driving by on that road. So at a really quick glance here, we can see when that road was being used more often. The red, it's pretty much recording all the time from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then we have some breaks in the evenings and in the mornings. That graph should look different now that we have adjusted the sensitivity and we've adjusted the motion detection graph. This will be much more customized to motion actually happening in our parking lot and not just motion happening on the road. But we can click anywhere we want to on this timeline to see exactly what was happening in both of those cameras at that time. We can also zoom in by clicking on the timeline and scrolling our mouse wheel in and out. We can scroll all the way down to an hour. We can see exactly when it was recording motion and when it was just recording in general. So that's pretty much all I want to show you here with the NVR interface. It's very quick and simple. You can learn this really fast. You can teach this to other people. There's not a whole lot you can do with it, which just makes it that much easier for anyone to pick up and use. And that is the NVR interface. Again, we do have one more video walking you through the mobile app, so if you are interested in that, be sure to check the links down below. Uniarch does have a much more capable mobile application than standard Uniview cameras and most other professional grade cameras as well. So that's definitely not something that you're going to want to miss out on. If you want to learn more about Uniarch products in general, again, check out the rest of the videos in this series. And when you're ready, visit our website at nellysecurity.com/Uniarch. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.